أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another segment of our Ramadan series. In this series, we are looking at the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with regards to the month of Ramadan. How can we learn the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam so that we would have a successful Ramadan, inshallah. I am Yunus Hassan. I'm a student of Al-Quran and I also work as a research assistant. I assist university students to do their research. Bachelor degree students, master degree students, or PhD candidates. I assist them to do research for their dissertations. What I also do is that I help them on online research and field data collection. Today we are going to look at the previous question that we had in our previous segment. And the question was, what was the previous name of Shaitan? What was the previous name of Shaitan or Satan? According to the Quran, we learn of the story of Satan and how he became Satan. And his previous name was Iblis. He was Iblis before he became Satan or Shaitan. Now we understand from the narration of the Quran that when you look at Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2 of Quran, in verse 34, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the fact that he asked the angels to prostrate to Adam. After the creation of Adam, he asked all angels to prostrate to Adam, but Iblis had refused. And then when you come to Surah Al-A'raf, that is chapter 7 of Quran, from verse 11 towards verse 20, Allah then gives a full story or narration as to how Iblis became rebelliant towards the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We understand again from the teaching that Iblis was one of the jinns that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had raised in high honor, and he was among the angels. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given the command that all angels should prostrate to Adam, all the angels prostrated except Iblis. And some would want to ask, well, if Iblis was a jinn, perhaps the command did not include him. Well, that could be a valid observation. The one thing that we understand again from the narration is that Allah did not condemn Iblis at that point. Allah went on to ask Iblis, "O Iblis, why is it that you did not prostrate when the angels were asked to prostrate?" And look at the answer Iblis gave. Iblis then said that Allah created Adam from mud or clay and created he, Iblis, from fire. So he, Iblis, was better than the creation of man or Adam. So why would he prostrate to Adam? So that's where arrogance began. We also understand that Iblis, perhaps before this incident, we don't know the exact name for Iblis. Iblis could have been a nickname referred to him at that moment. Because when you look at the original meaning of Iblis, it means somebody who's in grief, or somebody who is desperate, or someone who's in a state of confusion. So looking at the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributed that term to him at that point in the narration, that Iblis, perhaps at that time he seemed to be somebody who was in a state of grief or confusion. In other cases, we believe that he had some sort of jealousy towards the creation of Adam, and then even towards some of the angels, because he thought he was better. And this is where we realize that arrogance came in from the part of Iblis, and then disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was then afterwards when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to leave his sight. And he then asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah should allow him to be around until the day of resurrection. And Allah says that then he has given him respite until the day of resurrection. And he, Iblis, then said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he has vowed to mislead mankind, or Adam and his progeny, because he is going to mislead them or mislead all of us so that we will not adhere to the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or will not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then thereafter Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said he could only misguide those who would leave themselves to Iblis or the command of Iblis, but the faithful ones to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he cannot misguide them, inshallah. So this, we can find this narration in Surah Al-A'raf, chapter 7 of Quran. If you start from verse 11 towards verse 20, we get this complete story. Now, after that incident, when Adam and Eve were in the garden, Iblis then came to them and decided to deceive them, that the tree that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had forbid them to approach, he said that if they approach that tree or if they eat from the tree, they'll become angels or they'll become immortals. That was what he said to Adam and Eve in a way to deceive them. And he told them that he's a trusted advisor to them. And unfortunately, they ate from the tree. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called out to them and told them they have committed an abomination. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told them that they should come down to the earth until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down prophets or messengers to guide us human beings. So we understand from that point, when Iblis had misguided Adam and Eve in the garden, Allah then gave him another nickname or referred to him as Shaitan, that Shaitan had misled them. So this is another instance where we now see the transition from the term Iblis then to the term Shaitan. Shaitan here in the Arabic understanding is somebody who's rebellious or someone who's an enemy. So he's rebellious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is an enemy to us because he has caused the downfall of man up at the time of the beginning of the mankind creation. So right now we understand that as Muslims, we need to be careful with our actions, that Iblis is always around or Shaitan is always around to deceive us as he deceived Adam and Eve. We learn from Al-Quran and Surah Al-Nas. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a message and telling us how we can protect ourselves from the deception of Shaitan. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. قل أعوذ برب الناس. Here we are seeking refuge. قل أعوذ, that we seek refuge with Allah, who is the Rabb of man, who is the creator of man or the Lord of man. We understand that in some of our statements as Muslims, we say, Kul a'uzu birabin nas, malikin nas, ilahin nas, min sharril waswasil khannas, min sharril waswasil khannas, from the one who whispers into the hearts of man. So here we are referring to Shaitan and his progeny or his disciples, that they whisper into the hearts of man. So when we are having negative thoughts or we have negative desires or we do negative things or commit sin, mostly Shaitan would whisper it to us, but Shaitan does not hold our hands to commit that sin. No. Shaitan only whispers the bad intentions or the negative intentions to commit sin in us. And then we then decide. We have a free will. Remember in Surah Al-Insan, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He has created us and given us the gifts of hearing and sight. And He has allowed us to have our free will. So whether we are grateful or not is unto us. But upon that, Shaitan also tries to divert us from the worship of Allah or the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. It means that we seek refuge with Allah from Satan. So that's why it's always good that as a Muslim, whatever you are to do, you should say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. That is to seek refuge with Allah. Because as soon as you say that, Shaitan will vanish from there and run away and will not mislead you to commit any sin. So this is just the brief information that we have with regards to how Shaitan had his previous name Iblis, and then he's known as Shaitan. So Shaitan or Satan means somebody who's rebellious, and he's rebellious towards the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it also means someone who's an enemy. He's an enemy to mankind. Okay, so for today's hadith, we are going to read from Sahih Muslim, Book of Fasting, hadith number 2. It is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when it is the month of Ramadan, the gates of mercy are opened and the gates of hell are locked and the devils are chained. I'll take the hadith again. In the month of Ramadan, as narrated by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the gates of mercy are opened and the gates of hell are locked and the devils are chained. We understand that Shaitan or Satan is a devil, and he has his disciples, or he has his soldiers that he works with. So from this, we understand when it's the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that the gates of mercy are opened, meaning the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's so high that any of us can easily come into the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with just some good deeds that we do, even if it's as little as an atom's weight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regards it as a very heavy deed. We understand from the previous hadith that we read that any good thing that we do in the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply 10 times. That means that if you do any one good deed, it will be as if you've done 10 of those good deeds. So in the month of Ramadan, we have to understand that the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with us, and the angels are also praying with us, and the hell is locked up, and then the devils are chained. Now, we have to look at this. People will say that, okay, why is it that in the month of Ramadan, if we say that the devils are chained, why is it that some people will still be tempted to commit sin? Let's not forget that man has desires. We have our own desires. And sometimes it's our desires that lead us to committing sin. So in another narration, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that the greatest of battles has ended, but the most of all battles, or the greatest of all battles that is ahead of us, is to fight our desires or our nafs. So in as much as the devils might be locked up, let's not forget that our desires can also mislead us. You know, we have a free will. So sometimes when you think of doing something that is not right, it depends on you to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you stay away from it. So if the devils are chained or locked up, it does not mean that we might not be tempted to commit sin, because our desires are still with us. The fact that the devils are chained means that maybe they will not be allowed to freely roam and commit other catastrophes. That is why they are chained. So we have to take note of this. As Muslims in the month of Ramadan, let's seek the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wide open for anybody who has committed sin previously, and this is a chance for you to repent and become a born again in Islam moving forward, inshallah. We understand that in Islam, when you get married, it is considered that you have completed half of your deen. So getting married in Islam is very important. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all single ones and grant us good spouses, pious spouses, and suitable spouses. Amen, inshallah. Before we go, we'd like to look at the question of today. The question for today is, what was the name of Prophet Muhammad's babysitter or wet nurse when he was a child? What's the name of his babysitter? What was the name of Prophet Muhammad's babysitter or wet nurse when he was a child? This is the question for today. We hope that we'll try to answer it at the comment section. Inshallah, when we come back next time, we'll look at what the answer is and then continue with our discussion, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us. Those of us that are not feeling well, those of us that are sick at home at the hospital, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us shifa and grant us good health. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us good that is in this world, good in the year after, and protection from the fire of Jahannam, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.